Well, it's just, lots of courses. I began from the very, very beginning, but these are just additional courses of brain drain. The unemployment, high unemployment, exceptionally high unemployment, 33% for, on average, over 50% for younger people. Even gender is split as well. More women are unemployed than men. Low-paying jobs, everybody knows that. You can see the statistics from the last speaker, and the lack of financial security. If you get very little money, then you can't secure your family. There's nothing you can pay for. Can't even buy food now with the salary that are being paid to them. Poor healthcare is a consequence of that migration, and the lack of facilities is also a consequence of is one of the push factors. How do you expect medical doctors to work without the facilities? With bare hands, is it? Bad leadership is governance. Yeah. And that's the main recommendation, improving political commitment to change, and unfavorable working conditions is all that it has to say. It's everything. Corruption, yes, corruption is governance. It's part of governance. They blow the budget, they put in the budget, you never see that money. The high rate of poverty is a consequence of this, and low education standard and incessant crisis. You've seen the crisis, the doctors are on strike, and everybody goes on strike. The teachers, the university, community, they're all constantly going on strike. So I think that's what that slide says. Well, from my perspective, I haven't actually seen the data, the split, but it's a moving target, because when you say without qualification, there are a lot of them that are going as traders, and they don't come back. There are some that are going as students, going on transfer. There are some that are going on holidays and they don't come back. And then there are some that actually going for their postgraduate studies or ab initio going to do their degrees if their parents have the money. And then there are those that are just got the job and then have to move because of the jobs. So it's a very dynamic situation, and I don't have the exact split of all of these categories.
Yes, in terms of recommendations, I would want to say very quickly that it's so important that we take issues of governance extremely seriously in our country and in the continent as a whole, because that is the core of what we need as a continent. Brain drain, like we agreed here, has its pitfalls and its merits. We must now accentuate the merits and use the merit as a springboard to eclipse some of the harsh effects of the pitfalls. Okay. By so doing, we would get somewhere, because this idea of skills transfer is essential. Going abroad and exposing yourself to training, education is key. And creating systems within Nigeria, within Africa, to trap some of these ideas, some of these skills, by providing opportunities, would create the needed space for these transfers to happen. Like we looked at data, if you look at Asian countries, their data is so good at the moment because they've engineered a system where they can trap skills from the diaspora into development in their country. Israel is a very good example of a country that has used its diaspora extremely well. The Chinese are doing a very good job at that at the moment. The Indians are doing a lot in that regard. So we need to start to create networks, diaspora networks within Africa, within Nigeria, so that some of these partnerships, some of these opportunities can begin to take shape. We can begin a process of incentivizing diasporans to come in, train our people, invest in opportunities where our people can benefit, because there are resources. Individuals have worked here, they've been able to get resources. Some of them have access to networks that can provide resources for development. We need a government with the right policies. Like for instance, in Edo State, there is this scheme called the Do Best. You know, that scheme needs to be properly elevated. We need to create a system where such a scheme like a Do Best is giving the opportunity to be mainstream. Let's mainstream systems that work. It's a good concept when it is properly idealized.
Okay.
It's a good concept. So I think we must begin to look at processes that would help incubate ideas within our countries, create systems and networks where our people can begin to interact with people back home to reduce this effect. That's my humble advice.
First, let me say that just before this presentation, my son, my first child, asked me, said, "Daddy, why are you still in Nigeria? Why have you not traveled abroad?" And I smiled to him. And I said, "Okay, I invite you to this presentation. I'll be here listening also."
Beautiful.
So it's, yeah. So the reality is that I will tell you straight away that there are not much foreign doctors practicing in Nigeria. There are levels of practice of professionals in the Nigerian health space, particularly in the medical sector. For those who come to practice, they just practice for a short period, what they call temporary registration. So they have to be registered, by the Medical and Dental Council. And most times they give them what they call short temporary registration. And most of the time we don't see them stay in the country on a sustainable basis, except for governments who want to create some users value because they are able to, of course, attend to the local health workforce. They import some of these doctors in the country and only to find out they cannot sustain the remuneration for them because they pay them almost 10, 15 times what they pay their local doctors, and yet do not give them any regard. So most of the time, it ends up in disaster. So there are not much of them, like what you see from Nigeria to other parts of the world. In terms of the solution, we put as number one, and that is what I've been doing since 2004, even before, the issue of political commitment, good altruistic governance, the issue of getting committed and understanding, having leaders who truly understand the nexus between human capital development and wealth creation, economic prosperity, and national development. I had a governor, with due respect to him, who in my interaction with him told me that he will never allow doctors in a state to treat him or to clean his skin. And I said, why? He said they're always demanding for improved welfare. I said, why would they demand for improved welfare? You don't want them to grow? That is a governor. If I was one of the governors who imported foreign doctors and eventually ended up in disaster, they had to go back to their countries. So they need to understand that, look, unless and until you invest, make the necessary investments, you cannot stop this mass movement because migration is an international norm. I mean, the laws allow people to migrate in terms of the labor laws, to migrate anywhere you want to apply your trade. So, but you must have a leadership that can create that equipoise in the first instance between the push and the pull factors, and even do better. Is there anything saying that Nigerian government cannot do better than other governments? I mean, while we were attending to COVID-19 pandemic in Nigeria, the British government came with all sorts of schemes. You heard of Nigerian doctors stranded at the airport because Nigerian government didn't want them to travel, but eventually they still travel. That is a proactive government. They have enough, they have better healthcare arrangements, but they are still looking for doctors to attend to their healthcare needs. Whereas those who are even having deficits are just in a very docile state. It doesn't make sense. So the issue of governance is key. It's number one, it's number two, and it's number three.
I advise the regional governments, that's the ECOWAS and the African Union and also Nigerian, all levels of Nigerian government. But I've come to the conclusion that, yes, government needs to create the enabling environment. But to be honest with you, that is all that I should expect from government. They don't have the money. The diaspora remittance is twice the money that they hope to get from oil. So why think they will do anything? The money is not enough for civil servants. They have it in the budget, it is their money. They budgeted to spend that money, not to spend it in anything you want. So we should look at strategic leverage of the diaspora remittance.
That's right.
And then build networks across the diaspora in every field and subfield, every sector and subsector. Cluster of association of network of dietitians, network of optometry, network. Why do you really have to come to Nigeria to solve problems when you can do everything online? What is it that telemetry, medicine, there's nothing. E-learning, when you come into trade and trade, you can set up e-learning system for any particular discipline. You can, a cluster abroad can work with a cluster within to provide that services and use your resources to enable those. Rather than the way we are sending the money will still come there, but let it in the middle, solve and create opportunities. And let me tell you something. I chaired, as I said before, I chair and continue to chair digital economy, bioeconomy, science, technology, and innovation. And the first thing I did was to make sure that innovation is a cross-cutting theme across the whole economy, not just as a topic in the Ministry of Science and Technology. And there's no funding framework to make sure that research, you can have knowledge transfer partnerships. I changed all that. So I brought that to the middle, and then I made sure that those other these groups I'm chairing, I have to create metrics of looking for ecosystem, technology ecosystem in every area of our life.
Yeah.
Even in creative and cultural industry, in defense, looking for innovative innovation ecosystems, and then making sure that we can address the linkages and fulfill those missing links, and then create a funding, what you call a National Innovation Challenge Fund, to sit in the middle, and people can access it through a triple helix model. In other words, triple helix partnership means an academia or university or national research and development, whatever output they have, we have a private sector partnering, and then government can come in. So that partnership is the condition for accessing the money. The money is no longer within it. It's all other posts of funds, blended finance, grant fund, all kinds of development partners bring $4 billion. We're not even accessing the money. So so we're looking to galvanize all of that and then show that, okay, if you look at bioeconomy, which I have developed over the last 3 years, Germany, the component of bioeconomy to their GDP is 2.4 trillion euro. 2.4 trillion euro is the component. And then that bioeconomy, not only that it grows at about 22% of the GDP, the GDP grows 22%, the rest of the economy grows at about 3%. That's what you see in other economies. The bioeconomy component grows 5 to 7 times more than the general economy. So we need to shift there. So I have made in that plan, hoping that all those in the diaspora can, even where they are, work and drive this bioeconomy. I programmed that by 2025, it will be 20% of our GDP. We are looking at about $200 billion in that area. But that value can be tripled if the diaspora invests and gets involved. Let me tell you the reason. If you look at oil, mining, gas, they cannot employ, even the Dangote factory, all these factories, they cannot employ 2 million Nigerians.
Yeah.
But bioeconomy will employ 208 million Nigerians. Everybody will play on this. Everybody. So if you like, I can send you my presentation and some summary documents on this.
Yeah.
See where you enter. Every product, there's nothing you need to import for bioeconomy. But everything produced in bioeconomy can be exported.
Okay.
So where is our, look at the strength of our diaspora. You have tacit knowledge. So in knowledge capital is yours. You have health and then education. So all of these areas are special advantages that those in the diaspora have over those in Nigeria. And that is the difference that you make. Then you have fintech, financial technology. Now you can see that has taken roots. Now even the cryptocurrency, all these are taking roots. You look at the agri-tech. Agri-tech is about technology driving agriculture. You don't need to be here to do this. Wherever you are, you can create the market, you can work with the people, you can use satellite to look at all the outgrowers growing crop for you. You can, it's unbelievable energy that you really just forget this government. And let's focus on what we can do for ourselves.